Welcome back, horror fans, to the Week in Horror podcast. This week, we are covering September 13th through September 19th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I am JL, and with me tonight are two very special guest hosts. Johnny O from the Plot Hole has returned, and you will recognize her as the official timekeeper of the Week in Horror Bloodbaths, Week in Horror editor and producer, Angela.
Hey guys!
I feel like I've been here before.
Maybe just once or twice.
Yeah. It's familiar territory.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes. This is what I wanted to cover. This is Johnny's fourth time on our show.
That's right.
On Week in Horror. I think I think at this point, he's legitimately a host. I think he's no longer really a guest host anymore. Maybe you gotta have 5. How many times have we punched your card?
You know what? Like I was telling you, you need to add a little puppy in the back of your new season 2 artwork. You have the Cerberus, a 3-headed dog, which is obviously you, Eugene, and Alex. Now we just need a little puppy dog in the background that says Johnny. Just a little
right.
A little bitty guy.
Johnny's just a rotational host at this point. He's like, you know what?
Pretty much. He's been.
You know what? I got a day off. Let's do this.
I'm happy to fill in at any time.
Well, he's definitely of the guests we've had on. You've been fantastic in your knowledge is comparable to us. You love horror as much as we do, and you really dig into the I would say the finer points of our favorite genre, which is really cool. I love having you on. I know the boys love having you on, Alex and Eugene. And by the way, for our listeners, Alex has some personal stuff, had some family stuff coming down. We wish his dad the best. His dad is kind of sick right now, but I know he's fighting something, so he's helping out the family there. And Eugene is down in Austin fighting, or I would say protesting, but yeah, fighting the good fight for our industry, for the entertainment industry, and for crew workers, and trying to help legislation get passed that can protect crew workers' pay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
During this insane time right now. So he's down there fighting the good fight, making us all look bad.
Well, we can't all go whisking down and protesting in Austin.
This is true. I have bills to pay.
See? The dogs
They're
agree.
protesting here.
All right. So, yes, Johnny's 4th time on the show. And I actually go back and look. That's so awesome. And Angela's first time being on the show, which is pretty fucking cool. Before we jump into the movies tonight, I really got to ask, what do you guys thoughts? We have the fucking season finale next week.
Yeah.
On the 16th. My head is fucking exploding.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. Should be a lot of fun. I'm going to pop in at the beginning, I think. Kind of just, poop on your parade for a little bit and then head on out.
Cool. Hey, and if you're more than welcome if you want to hang around and tech for us too, because I'm so freaked out.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll definitely hang out in the background and help Eugene out as the wizard behind the curtain.
That'll be sweet. Yes, you are our Wizard of Oz.
I don't know how I should take that. I'm super excited for you guys. I can't believe we've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
Fuck. 1 year.
52
I know.
This is crazy.
Episodes.
And I totally and for those listeners like this, Angela's my wife, and I totally sucked her into editing for us because
word choice.
I totally dragged her into editing for us, and because her editing skills are awesome, but she has taken the time to sit down and edit every single episode
and
of
Bloodbath.
Week in Horror. And our bloodbaths. She's our official timekeeper on the Bloodbath debates and our After Dark sessions. So she is the power behind all of us. If without Angela, this show wouldn't happen because she's the one cutting and pasting. And every time we fuck up or every time we drop something, every time there's like 3 minutes of silence because we're all waiting for everybody else to pick up the goddamn cue, or Alex is too stoned and he forgets what he's supposed to say. She's the one that solves all that and fixes it and makes it sound awesome.
Alex doesn't get stoned.
Aww.
Well, it is awesome having the two of you together here with me doing the show. I think this is gonna be a really, really fun one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So with that being said, what do we have up first?
All right, we're gonna kick this bad boy off with a personal favorite of mine. I would say this is more of a guilty pleasure because I enjoy the franchise. We're gonna look at Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, released September 13th, 1991. Holy fuck, I was 11 years old when this came out.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm fucking old.
Yeah, you
are. Directed by Rachel Talalay, and written by Michael DeLuca, and starring Leslie Dean, Sean Greenblatt, Yaphet Kotto, Lisa Zane, and of course, the man Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. This was the 6th installment in the original franchise, and the one that supposedly was supposed to be the end of Freddy Krueger because I think that there were complications at Newline during the time, and Robert Englund wasn't certain if he was going to return. So there was things were up in the air. So this was supposed to be the Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, to finish the whole thing out. And fortunately, he did come back for Wes Craven's New Nightmare because Wes Craven is the man. He can get anybody to come back. But this one, I think, cemented the tonal shift of the entire franchise. In this one, Freddy has returned and is trying to basically take on the entire world by utilizing his daughter, his unknown daughter, which was kind of inserted for this movie, to re-enter the world and start killing kids again. Because now that he's completely finished with everyone on Elm Street, it's time to go on because every town has an Elm Street. And wackiness ensues. But the comedy in this one was definitely higher than the horror, than the straight horror on this one. There were some good moments and some really solid kills. And it was a decent kind of send-off as far as the 6th film goes. But, it's wild that only 6, because Jason's been going strong for a while, and they thought that this one was going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Okay, anybody who knows anything about New Line Cinema and the Nightmare on Elm Street series, whenever New Line Cinema says, hey, we're failing, let's put out Nightmare on Elm Street, that kind of just like resurrects them. And we knew that this wasn't... Everybody who watched this movie knew it wasn't going to be the last. You can't let a horror icon like Freddy Krueger die in a shitty film like A Final Nightmare.
Yeah, it was. There's no way, absolutely no way that could happen. The boy can't go out like that.
No, not at all. No.
And it was a huge tonal shift. It was very much. It was almost like a farce.
I would say because they reused several things from previous entries in the series.
Right.
Several sight gags and several setups. So.
Yeah, that made it a little bit more cartoony in places than what you're used to. The power glove.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got power. Yeah.
Okay, I will admit, the Johnny Depp cameo was nice.
No, that was definitely
nice. Unexpected.
Yeah.
That was pretty slick. What are you on? Looks like a frying pan and some eggs to me.
I mean, I don't know what was in that kid's weed, but I mean,
yeah,
he got some bad shit.
I'm not an expert on the marijuana or the devil's lettuce, but last I checked, it does not make you hallucinate, even though it is classified as a hallucinogen.
It is. It is. Now, this is interesting because this was also New Line's first 3D film to be released, because they did the whole sequence at the end when supposedly the audience was supposed to put on the glasses at the same time the lead actress when Tracy puts on her glasses, and so that they can go through the 3D experience at the same time. So it wasn't even the entire film. It was just like this final
10
sequence
minutes
kind of
or something. Yeah,
10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, and it was cheesy as fuck.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh my God.
It was cheesy.
Oh, what do I need these glasses for? We hadn't said a word about any kind of needing special shit, and all of a sudden, just retcon fucking 3D glasses. Mid-movie. Oh, I need these glasses to be able to see in his brain. What? This makes no fucking sense. There's suspension of disbelief, and then there's just bullshit. I'll let you guys decide where that falls. I was not happy with this film, if you can't tell.
Well, it wasn't a great way to be like, this is the final Freddy, because, I mean, from the first one all the way, and then you get to the end of it, and you're like, what?
Yeah. I didn't think they could make a worse film than number 5. Exactly.
Yes, Dream Child. Dream Child. I was certainly some. Well, I will say there were a couple of kills in that were kind of just visually cool.
Okay, see, for me, it seems like the Nightmare on Elm Street, after the third one, it went straight to how can we kill the people the best, right? It was just like a collection of kills. It wasn't, they didn't develop any story. I mean, and the story they did develop was just, strung together haphazardly. And they broke rules and changed things. And like, this doesn't work for me. Come on, give me a little bit of a story.
Maybe they were smoking the devil's lettuce that kid in 6 was.
Smoking meth.
Some interesting things about this. Despite the fact that the film really didn't, obviously didn't swing as hard as they thought it would. The stuff that they did for this was really cool. I know that they consulted a bunch of people for drafting this thing. I know Peter Jackson actually drafted a screenplay for the Final Nightmare, which unfortunately was not used. I would have liked to have seen that.
I would rather have seen the Peter Jackson version of Final Nightmare.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would have probably been more genuinely terrifying.
I think he would have brought, obviously, his unique. When you take a look at things like Brain Dead and Meet the Feebles and the Frighteners and where he goes as far as his makeup effects and the tone that he brings, I think it would have been darker, and I think the effects would have been better. And I think he would have respected the rest of the franchise and tried to bring the whole thing full circle. And instead of it just being, Freddy shows up, we beat the fuck out of him, we pretty much do what we do every single day, we pull him into reality, beat the shit out of him, and then this time they just happen to blow him up,
right? Instead
of doing something else.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more a developed story than just, hey, let's take the same plot line of every movie and then just do it again.
Just recycle it and throw in some wackiness.
Right.
And that goes to show, and I think it would have been smarter to go in that direction, to go a little bit darker to bring. And I know that the tone shifts and it really kind of started in 3, because one was straight horror, and with Freddy, being comical in some respects, but that was a legit straight horror film. And then 2 went into a really weird direction. I love 2. I thought it was excellent for the thematic kind of energy, the dream state of what Freddy is, because that truly felt like a legit nightmare.
Yeah,
and I liked that direction.
Yeah, 2 is probably my favorite.
That's telling, because number 2, if you think about what number 2 is saying, the conversation of Freddy's Revenge, it's kind of shitty.
It doesn't reflect. I think it was a reflection of the mentality at the time.
Yeah. Like it's the worst thing to do. Like, this thing inside of you is homosexuality. And you got to get rid of it. And the only way to get rid of it is to find a girlfriend and not be gay anymore. That's kind of a shitty thing to do.
True.
Yes.
But I think also, yes, I think it was a reflection of kind of the negative stereotype at the time, and the writer may have inspired that. I think also, given what we know now. And I hate to use the term woke or anything like that, but I have spoken with fans, and I've heard fans express that it was also a matter of kind of dealing with it kind of cathartically, kind of like, I have felt this way. Right. I have felt like I am in this person's shoes, and I've been through this, and it is a living nightmare. So it was kind of like the personification of what people were dealing with at the time, what people still deal with, which is why I think, while it wasn't well received at first, it has come back up as kind of like, wow, that was it. It was tonally bad, at the time.
Well, it
was
just
like,
didn't age
this
very
is
well.
not a great. Yeah, but it had some very powerful things to say, as much as a horror film about Freddy Krueger could possibly say.
Right.
And then, of course, the tone really began to shift with 3, because 3 brought in the Dream Warriors and the ability to fight back in the dream. 4 expounded upon that with one person able to use the dream powers of multiple people and become really powerful against Freddy. Then 5 was the Dream Child, which is like, what the fuck are you doing here? But it was more just like you said, they tried to ramp up the kills and make it more visually stylish. And then, of course, this one just went, camp.
Very much so. It seemed as if Freddy's Dead was Robert Englund coming on stage as a comedian, Freddy. Like, Freddy was on stage just to make us laugh, as opposed to scare the shit out of us.
I've always been very, very curious as to what external influences y'all might think drove Freddy to become the kind of goofy killer that he was by comparison to, say, Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, or even new guys like Ghostface, like this, where the killer is visceral, the killer is brutal, and they're not really camp at all. But Freddy remains the big camp one, and there could have been external influences. I'm kind of curious as to what you guys might think.
Well,
I think he just loves his job.
Well, sure, yeah, absolutely, right. So killing kids is his game, and business is good, as Major Payne says. No, I think so. If you look, Freddy Krueger's always told jokes, had a little bit of one-liners. But if you look at the original, right? So Nightmare on Elm Street, when he gave his one-liners, they weren't meant to make you laugh. They were meant to torment you. Like, here's a guy who's truly getting off on making you piss your pants as he's killing you. All the little things that he does, the little one-liners, are not meant as any kind of comedic relief whatsoever. They're meant to mentally torture you. Because, here's the thing. He could have killed every one of those kids the first time he was in A Dream with Them, but he didn't, because he wanted to season the meat, to coin or to steal a phrase from a different franchise. We won't name that one. It's a good one, though. But yeah, so it seems, like I said, in the first one, he was very much, I'm saying these one-liners, but it is not meant to make you laugh. It's to terrify you. It is to torture you before I end up gutting you, before I end up, sucking you through the bed and turning you into a big old juju of blood.
Souls taste better that way.
What's that?
Souls taste better that way.
Well,
all nice and juicy.
But then, it just got worse and worse. The one-liners were coming at the wrong spots. Like check in, but you can never check out. Like, okay, man, it's just
like too much emphasis was put on making sure that we have them in
right, whereas as opposed to letting them happen more naturally.
What was the actual question again?
Oh, just your take on what external influences might have caused the Freddy tone to shift like that, with his influences from competing franchises like Halloween or Friday the 13th or like that, whereas they pretty much stayed straight horror. And to kind of my view has always been that the intention was to set Freddy apart from the other, you could say, mute brutes that were out there, to set them apart from Friday the 13th, set them apart from the Halloween franchise, from the many, many other, stalking killer thing. The one-liners, the jokes, and the camp, and the twisted dream kills always kind of set Freddy apart. And I think that it became over-reliant. The people became over-reliant on the character and proving the character was different from anybody else, instead of the storyline and the plot.
Well, and I think that the reason that they ended up going all wacky, cartoonish, like more and more, is that they were like the one-liners that were in like 1 and 2 were well received because they were meant to be scary, but they just like pushed it to the point where it was just ridiculous. Like, I can't take you seriously anymore, but it's funny, so.
I kept expecting to hear the da song every time he would show up on.
Well,
on
I mean, he did a Wile E. Coyote throwing, what's his name, John Doe kid, like through reality or whatever that was, and
right,
like that is little imprint of his body.
Right, and that whole thing was pointless because he just ends up killing him later, anyways.
Yeah.
It was. I think it wound up goofier than they intended. There might have been. I don't know. It's hard to say that there was. You can usually tell there's intention if there's unintentional or intentional comedy in a horror film. I think. I sadly think that this was unintentional comedy. The things that came out funny weren't really meant to be funny. But then again, there's not much info on what studio interference there may have been on this, and what was really intended, because there were many drafts of this script that did not get made. That right there tells you that there was a huge studio interference. Yeah, there was a bunch. I mean, there was. I think the original script, they were going to tie it directly into. They were going to tie it directly back to Nightmare 3, Dream Warriors, and that they were going to pull that Alice was going to come back and aid Jacob Jacob Johnson, who was the son of Alice Johnson, or who was her son in 5, and that Alice was going to come back and help him defeat, and then they tossed that idea out, and then Peter Jackson was brought in. They didn't use his script, but it was cool. Peter Jackson's story, because I was looking it up, Peter Jackson's story was about teenagers who didn't see Freddy as a threat and took sleeping pills specifically to enter his world.
Right. Yeah, it was like a test or a show of manhood or bravado or some shit.
Which is interesting where that might have gone. And that definitely would have left it open. Or maybe it could have wound up being a final one or however it goes, but I would have loved to have seen that take place. But here's a really good question. Now that we are so many years past, this came, the Freddy's Day came out in 1991, and shortly, what was it like? It's like 3 years later, New Nightmare came out, and then came Freddy vs. Jason, and that was the last film version of Freddy to show up. And I think Robert Englund donned the Freddy outfit, or donned the Freddy costume one more time for an episode. Oh God, what the hell is the name? It was a comedy show that he was on, that he showed up in. I can't remember the name of it.
Me either.
But anyway, he showed for one episode of a comedy show where the one of the main characters was having a nightmare and encountered Freddy Krueger. But he's pretty much, but Robert Englund is retired. And so the big question that I want to ask, and I want to ask this of the audience as well. Robert Englund has expressed interest in Kevin Bacon picking up the role as the next Freddy Krueger and carrying the franchise forward in maybe a reboot or, new, or however they want to do it. But definitely probably not a remake, because we saw, I love Jackie Earle Haley to death. I really do. I loved him as Rorschach. I love him in the work that he does. He just did not make a great Freddy.
No.
In the remake, it was so, the changes to the story and,
I think the remake was
just
bad.
Overall, it was just not good. Yeah. But Robert Englund has expressed interest in, Kevin Bacon maybe taking over the role. He thinks he would do really, really well in it. But I'm really curious, not only you guys, but what do the audience think? Who would you like to see pick up the role of Freddy Krueger and carry the franchise forward from here? What actor do you think has both the ability to intimidate? Because Freddy Krueger's not a big dude. He's not big and scary and silent. He doesn't wear a mask like that. Yeah, he's creepy looking. He's got a burned face, got the the bladed claw. But he has to be able to comedically handle the situation and be frightening and intimidating, either with the voice or with a look or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. Who's got the chops to handle it?
Actually,
who could pick up the mantle other than, say, Kevin Bacon?
Ooh, actually, I would like to see Kevin Bacon as it. He has the physicalities that would be perfect. Actually.
That's a good one. I'd have to think about that one for a bit. Because now that you said Kevin Bacon, I started to picture him in the role, and it does seem to be a pretty good fit. Although I don't know if Kevin Bacon would ever do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure he would. Yeah, I'm not sure he would. I think his performance in Hollow Man tells me
that's what I was thinking. It's exactly where I went when you said Kevin Bacon, Freddy Krueger. I immediately went Hollow Man, thinking, man, he could probably pull this off because he's done a similar type role.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, Hollow Man, if you combine what he did in Hollow Man with his asshole fucktard character in Super, in James Gunn's kind of indie superhero film Super with Rainn Wilson and Ellen Page, Kevin Bacon played this asshole, like, gangster drug dealer douchebag in it. But he was funny. His reaction to shit, because he was reacting, because mostly he reacts to Rainn Wilson trying to be a badass.
Right.
And his reactions were perfectly timed and actually quite funny. He was actually one of the funnier parts of that movie. But obviously we've seen, Kevin Bacon can go deep, he can go funny, he can be intimidating. He can be. He's got a look and he's got a glare. Stir of Echoes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and he's got, some piercing eyes, and not to mention, he, his fluidity is really good for, a role like Freddy's, because while he is a slight build, he's not awkward. He's very smooth.
And it's time to take my pills. If you were younger, Do you was it what is his name? What is his name? He was a kicker in The Replacements.
Oh,
he was also in
the you talk about the Keanu Reeves one?
Yeah, he was also in Hannibal Rising. Yeah, he was in Hannibal Rising. Golly, what is his name? Rise Ifans.
Oh, I think he would be interesting.
Yeah,
he's got an interesting look.
Right.
And Angela, you'd remember him from was it Notting Hill?
Was he in Notting Hill?
Yeah, I think he let me see here a second. And he was I think he was Hugh Grant's brother.
Yes, he was. Yes, you're right. He was in Notting Hill.
And then he had the scene where he went out there and he was like flexing for the cameras and he was in his underwear and he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do. Yeah,
Yes.
no, that would be an interesting pick.
Because he kind of has that same type of he can play the comedic aspects of it and the kind of creepy aspects of it.
Yes, he did he was the CIA. I think was he the CIA director in that Joseph Gordon-Levitt film where he played Snowden, where he played
Yeah,
and in that he was the creepy, always coming in via broadcast kind of like creepy CIA dude, and he's got a real stillness about him which could play both ways. So that is an interesting pick, and I'd like to know what the audience thinks. Let us know. Shoot us an email or hit us up in the comments below who you think should take the role of Freddy Krueger next if they decide to carry on the franchise. Let us know or shoot us an email at weekendhorror@gmail.com or throw one in the comments below.
it's a great question.
All right, I know we have a good one next, Johnny. And what do we? This one's so great.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to review this film before today, but it's Humanoids from the Deep, 1996, September 14th. Yeah, directed by Jeff Jonas, produced by Roger Corman, starring Emma Samms and Robert Carradine. So basically, the army attempts to create the perfect soldier, our perfect water soldier, and they recruit death row inmates. And that just turns men into fish hybrids.
Death row inmates.
Death row inmates.
Always a good choice.
Right? That's the best thing
All
for,
right.
you know what? I want to create a super soldier. Let's get people who are going to die anyways, because that's the perfect motivation.
Amphibious
so yeah.
soldiers.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Amphibious soldiers and man-fish hybrids. So, but they are deemed too dangerous in order to be destroyed. But of course, they get out, entering the sewers. It's always got to be the sewers.
Yeah,
Don't
because
play in the
why
sewers.
not?
Right? Why not? So yeah, this is like I said. I didn't get a whole lot of time to go back and look at this one. I looked at a little bit of it, and it looked funny, fucking hilarious. Actually,
So it
Wasn't
was
this
definitely grainy.
Yeah, this was a Showtime one, right? It was a Showtime TV.
Yeah, it was remade for it was a remake of the 1980 original that was presented as a part of Roger Corman Presents.
Okay, so since you didn't have a chance to like review it, one of my favorite lines is he's talking about he's going around killing people like Al Bundy. That's Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy,
film-
Al Bundy, one of the two.
One of the Bundys.
One of the Bundys.
The film has so many. I think what's humorous about this one is that the remake was a straight horror film, straight up horror, sexploitation, classic shit. Lots of TNA, lots of gruesome death, and a lot of like gooey gross stuff because these things aren't like just like legit like fish people. They're freaking disgusting. They're really gross.
They are.
And they do a lot of really gross shit. But this one, I think, the remake was intended to capitalize more on the humor, and it kind of expressed it a little bit more than the original did, because the original was extremely dark. There was a lot of rape in it, a lot of women falling prey to these monsters because the objective the objective was to kill all the men and rape all the women and impregnate all the women and have offspring.
There was a pregnancy in there, wasn't there? There was a
Yes.
birthing scene.
Yes.
At the very, very end.
Remember this film?
Yeah, it was at the very, very end because they did blood tests or whatever, and They were like, yeah, no, it's all negative. And then as soon as she's like in the car smoking a cigarette and like it comes bursting out of her.
Gross.
Roll credits.
Roll credits.
So it was interesting because many times when you have remakes, you see a lot of alterations, whereas of between the original and this one. And fortunately, there was not a ton. This one stayed pretty true to the original. And I like the fact that Roger Corman was behind it, because Roger Corman, this is straight up his alley. He loves it. He loves doing this shit, horror, sexploitation, and with a twinge of comedy. It's literally right up his alley. And I for all of its flaws, for the bad monster designs, for the goofy monster designs, the film has its moments. It's definitely a fun little time killer as far as just watching monster movies and seeing gross stuff and seeing what people do, what the production company was able to do with the effects, and just kind of like setting up the scenes is pretty interesting. So I think it was one of those kind of little, it was like, let's go ahead and remake this. We can remake it on the cheap, and we can throw it on basic cable as a part of this, and it'll kind of fill that void.
Right. It definitely filled that void of cheap, awesome basic cable kind of stuff.
And you can definitely tell that they wanted to throw a little bit of comedy to not make it so like scary compared to the first one, because like in the first 5 minutes, like there's like this over exaggerated sigh from someone, like ah. I was like, it's like, oh well, okay.
Well, Clint Howard was in this, and that says everything about what you're trying to do with a film.
Clint Howard, that is the Ice Cream Man.
Yes, that is the Ice Cream Man. Now, but one thing that struck me about this one, and this came out in 1996, so well over 20 years, later. Towards the end of the 90s, we really did see a decline in the sexploitation genre.
There was it kind of coincided with that whole anti-rape movement thing. I'm kidding. Don't rape people. It's terrible.
But it's interesting because sexploitation was such a huge thing, because it popped up in the late 60s when people began to capitalize on the idea of putting sex in horror and making sex a big tits are coming out. And then of course every slasher film from the 70s on, everybody knows it's become one of the cardinal rules: if you have sex, you're going to die. There's always going to be tits. There's always going to be sex. And of course, you have your directors that wanted to carry on and make that a big part of the plot,
right?
And which birthed the sexploitation genre. But we had obviously during the late '90s and the early 2000s, this genre was dying and was pretty much relegated to your pay cable, your Skinamax films or your late night Showtime or maybe even HBO,
right?
Just to kind of capitalize on the late hours deal. But we have seen the decline of sexploitation, and I'm kind of curious as to as to what your thoughts are on what happened. What the fuck happened to sexploitation? These films are fun, but something changed.
So in all honesty, I really do think it has something to do with the empowering women type of thing, where they're tired of being just eye candy and whatnot. And that in horror film, I'm not necessarily talking about in the real world, but I think in the horror genre is kind of moving away from that a bit, because they're giving, women want a little more representation other than, tits and ass.
Right. They want to be a Buffy. They want to be, that stronger role model. And while there might be boobies still, I mean, there's still going to be some sex and everything, but it's not like in a degrading way or anything. It's just, hey, we are, human people. We do this.
Right. And I think the conversations, like the whole issue or the whole business with like Jason Voorhees and killing the premarital, there's like an underlying thing about don't do premarital sex and don't do drugs. And people are like, fuck all that shit. I mean, why am I going to get killed because I'm having sex? That's some dumb shit. The reason why sexploitation has kind of gone away is because the whole conversation that sex is bad kind of went away, especially in the 90s. The whole AIDS scare was fading out, and the new sexual revolution was kind of happening, and people were tired of being told don't have sex or you're gonna get killed by some Jason Voorhees or some guy.
Well, it was the same thing with drugs too, because if you do drugs or if you have sex, you're going to be killed in this movie.
Right.
This is interesting that it is kind of an examination of as American culture, because everyone who knows, American history, that this country is heavily founded in puritanical, pretty much puritanical ideology.
Oh yes.
And sex is bad. This any kind of negative behavior, any kind of thing, that reflects upon, or any kind of behavior that reflects on people negatively will lead to bad outcomes. The stories, or I say the fairy tales or the fables that children grow up with, are all cautionary tales about doing bad stuff, or disobeying your parents, or going where you're not supposed to be,
right,
or engaging in poor behavior will result in either death, dismemberment, or something horrible happening.
Exactly.
And slowly but surely, we are driving past that. We are getting past the silliness of that, and the antiquated notion that these stories need to be told like this in such a ridiculous manner. And so, yeah, you can say, as far as with the sexual revolution of the '90s, the empowerment of women, with Angela mentioned, with characters like Buffy and the girls on Charmed, and the strides taken to bring women to the forefront. And we've seen that. We see that nowadays. We see, with characters like Black Widow and with Wonder Woman, and we see that women can be not only awesome on screen, but they can be a force to be reckoned with, standing up there with Superman and the like, which I really dig this, because it's opened up whole new avenues for female-driven, female-centric films, which I really dig. And I'm looking forward to some seriously female-centric horror films, like The Descent. Movies like that, which really drive certain aspects home that people take for granted. And I think this is an unfortunate, and unfortunate's the wrong word. I don't want to use the word unfortunate. I want to say that this is kind of what happens with the genre, is that you will see certain things die off as society changes, as society either matures or things kind of, or let's say the focus begins to shift. The Universal horror monsters are not so large anymore, but they will always be special to us.
Well, and I think that the genre also has to change, though. Like, it has to change and keep up, because things that were scary in the 70s and 80s, when there weren't, cell phones. I mean, you can't really be like, doing, I have no way of communication when everybody's got a cell phone. You have to find different ways to make things scary.
That is also true. I was just going to say that if you look at the monsters, they all kind of come and go, right? So they have cycles, right? You're never going to get rid of the Universal monsters. Like Frankenstein, or the Frankenstein monster will always somehow make his way back into horror. Wolfman, Dracula, all those, the Mummy, all of them will still somehow find their way to come back to light. They were supposed to be doing like this horror MCU type thing with the Mummy, but Tom Cruise is so terrible in it, they killed it. So
yeah, there was supposed to be a kickoff where they were the kind of like Universal's Dark Universe, something like that. Right. It was a kind of like a revival of the original Universal monsters of Dracula, Wolfman,
right,
Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Invisible Man, like this, and which is crazy, because the Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy, was atrocious. It was so fucking bad. I've only seen clips of it, because it's just like, ugh. As long as that man's in Scientology, I just can't support much of what he does.
I don't give a fuck about his Scientology. I think he sucks as an actor.
Yeah. I respect him. Can we really? I mean, that's the harsh words, because he was pretty amazing in Tropic Thunder.
True.
I mean,
okay.
I mean, okay, one film out of a bazillion.
Okay. But he was amazing in Tropic Thunder. But behind the scenes of that, everything about Les Grossman, like the characterization, the style, everything he did, that was all Tom Cruise's idea. He brought all of that to the table. He was like, I want to play him like this. I want to have these big hairy-ass arms. I want to make him, just this outlandish Jew. I want him bald with a bad comb over and big glasses. And he's just a complete, total fucking asshole to everybody. That was all Tom Cruise is doing. So maybe it's the writing that hurts him as much, because the dude's creative. I gotta hand him that. Les Grossman was an amazing character that, that took on a life of its own. But you're right. Tom Cruise was terrible. I think the movie itself was terrible. Everybody in it was terrible. Russell Crowe was awful in it.
Oh, he phoned that performance in.
Oh yeah, that was a total phone in.
Good
Lord. And then of course, the Frankenstein revival with James McAvoy and Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe. That one was just kind of boring.
Well, okay, but that's the thing. Everybody expects Frankenstein to be this huge. What is this? What else is it supposed to be? I mean, if you think about the original Frankenstein, there wasn't a whole lot going on there. It wasn't this super scary story.
True.
It wasn't.
It was this guy
in fact, it was more dramatic at times.
Exactly. That's probably the least horror of all of the movie monsters was Frankenstein.
And then, of course, all of these are falling. And then, of course, the Benicio del Toro film, which was a shame because so much love went into that. And and Anthony Hopkins obviously loved that role. Anthony Hopkins brought so much to it, and Hugo Weaving was so great in it. But Benicio del Toro acted like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And he just was, he kind of phoned that in as well, which is a shame because the special effects now were amazing. That Wolfman looked incredible. And all of that was just wasted on Benicio del Toro just being like, okay, I'm bored. Maybe it was his interpretation of the character of Lawrence's character, but I don't know, but that kind of fell flat. Yeah. And the only person who's been able to, the only studio's been able to turn in anything solid as far as the original Universal Monsters was Blumhouse with their Invisible Man remake.
Oh yeah, no, that was awesome.
I still haven't seen that one.
You should. It was amazing.
It's awesome. It was seriously cool. I haven't felt that way about a film in a really long time. I think the last two movies where I was legit like on the edge of my seat, like this amazing, was It Chapter 1 and The Invisible Man. Invisible Man had me on the edge of my seat. My mind was blown. It was handled so well. And Elizabeth Moss, just an amazing actress, and just she brought so much to it. But yeah, that's the only one that's landed, and it's because big giant studio houses were not involved in it. So maybe it does take a smaller eye. Maybe it takes a more creative,
Well, yeah,
approach.
I mean, for certain, that's the problem with dealing with. Well, I say that like I fucking do it all the time, but that's the problem that I perceive with dealing with large. Let me just pop that microphone again. But dealing with large studios is that they want return on their investment. So they want, they're going to throw a lot of money into something, expecting the huge return. So they want, what do we think that people want? The average person wants explosions and visual this and all this cool stuff. But you're looking at the horror fan. The horror fan wants to be entertained in a way that is much different than your average film goer. It's not about strictly just, I want to be terrified. That's part of it. We definitely want to be frightened when we go see these films, but we also want to be intrigued. We want to be told a story.
Right, and we don't want to see it all coming.
It has to be right.
I think another problem though is there's so many hands that a script goes through when you're dealing with a large corporation like one of the big studios.
Right.
Like the script that is handed in at first is most certainly not the script that gets filmed.
Oh, of course not.
Oh, great. Yeah, absolutely. And studio interference, we've talked at length about studio interference fucking up the things that we want to see. When the studio has their, I understand making movies is a business, and companies have to watch their bottom line like this, but Blumhouse has proven you don't need to have your eye solely on your bottom line as long as if you make movies for the people who are going to watch them.
Right. I mean,
right.
Because I cannot say, I couldn't possibly list off how many hits Blumhouse has had over how many misses they've had. Because even their misses still were enjoyable to the fans of that particular of the horror genre or the subgenre that it tackled. So Blumhouse has done extraordinarily well, even when they're working outside the horror genre. But that's where it is, and they've gone from tiny little movies to the Conjuring universe to freaking Halloween, and now The Thing coming out here pretty soon.
Yeah, I just think that they're more in touch with their customer base, because that's what it is.
So that may also, So that may actually play into it. It not only has society shifted, and why we don't see as much TNA. We don't see the kind of the mentality that of viewing women as the victim in the horror film that leads up to the final girl who's the paragon of virtue and purity. But now we have the society has shifted. Women are empowered. We love seeing them kick ass in horror films. We love seeing female-centric horror films. We get to see a lot of women kicking ass. We don't need tits and ass to give a woman character. And not only that, but studios themselves have also shifted in that the money might not be there anymore. And so they don't get made just because it's not financially what's a good term? It's not
economically viable.
Economically viable. You knew exactly where I was going.
Yes,
Fiscally responsible.
Yep.
Oh, praise to one of the best Michael Douglas performances ever.
Ever. Yes. Great film. So anyway, looping this back into sexploitation, is the subgenre dead? Let us know. weekinhorror@gmail.com or in the comments section below. I nailed that one that time. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
it took me 4
you did a great job.
Well, it took me 4 goddamn appearances, but I nailed that shit.
Proud of you. You did great.
Nailed it like Jesus.
All right. Well, up next. Oh my God. God damn it.
Yes. See, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of doing this fucking show is like Johnny's like nailed it like Jesus, and Andrew's over there like God damn it.
I was about to nail it like Jesus, and you
next.
fucked it up for me, Johnny.
Well, I mean, we gotta be laughing going into this next film.
Well, yeah, because it is
Absolutely.
Cooties. September 18th, 2015. This film was directed by Jonathan Millet and Carrie Murnion. I think that's how you say your name. The writers are Lee Winnell, Ian Brennan, and Josh Waller. Huge cast. We're talking Elijah Wood, Rainn Wilson, Allison Pill, Jack Breyer. Like it was amazing. And you keep seeing more people, and you're like, I know that one too. I don't know their name, but I know them. It was super awesome. Basically, a bunch of kids had some bad chicken and turned into zombies.
Bunch of kids had bad chicken. That sounds like another movie I watched.
It was very entertaining, very funny. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, the chicken factory basically had some bad chicken sent out. These kids ate it, and they were affected because they were children and not adults. If the adults ate it, they just had, diarrhea, vomiting, and anal leakage. So not great.
It's such a fantastic movie,
Yep.
and not what you expect given the cast that's in this, especially with Elijah Wood and Rainn Wilson, Jack McBrayer from 30 Rock, fucking Allison Pill from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and of course Jorge Garcia was up in this, and everyone should remember Jorge Garcia from he was the big guy from Lost, or if you're a fan of How I Met Your Mother, he was the Blitz.
Oh yeah.
But yes, an absolutely hysterical fucking movie, and I loved it because, and I love the dichotomy of this movie because it is flat out funny. It has great moments, and the characters were extremely well built for the kind of film that this is. Mm-hmm. And I've always imagined, if you've ever had the conversation, like, what goes on in the teacher's lounge? People always hear, like, what did the teachers do when they're all in the lounge together? What kind of craziness? And I know the movie The Faculty kind of gave us a look at that, where they're in the teacher's lounge saying pretty much fuck off to these kids. Like, we're in the classroom saying fuck off to the teachers. But I love the classic stereotypes where Rainn Wilson is the PE teacher, and he's a complete and total, like, just, brutish kind of dick. Just, thinking he's big swinging dick all over the place, and then all the different caricatures, and then the Allison Pill is the mousy little teacher, and then so you take that concept and then you apply some of the most brutal fucking zombies I've seen in years, since probably Dawn of the Dead. Since the Dawn of the Dead remake.
These zombie kids were no joke, and I mean they were assholes whenever they weren't zombies.
Yeah, that's true.
They would be like,
"This is true.
You look like my butthole's ass." You look like if my butthole had a butthole. That's what you look like.
And then you go from that you go from kids like that and turn around, and then when they turn into zombies and shit, and like then you have them out there on the playground during their like zombie recess, like fucking playing jump rope with fucking intestines and shit.
Yep.
So
it's
it's a crazy fucking movie, and I love that the kids. I've seen child zombie films before. Like there was an indie film came out called The Children, where it was a Christmas style, Christmas theme movie where all the kids, there was some sort of disease that was affecting children. They all go crazy and kill their parents. And of course, child zombies are not new. This was done rather interestingly because it's more modern.
Well, not to mention they made them kind of smart, because like as soon as the asshole kid got it infected, he ran around the entire playground just like scratching all the other kids, like not even like tackling them, just scratching them.
Exactly, to spread the disease and to make more of them, which is interesting because I'm curious. Does this just your opinion? Does this make are they zombies or are they more like rage zombies where they're just the infected?
They're more like rage zombies, I would say.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any coming back from that.
Oh well, there definitely is not.
No. When he slams that final kid into the tree at the end, there was no coming back.
You're
from that.
Caught. I know, and it had one of the best, last lines from Rainn Wilson. Nap time, motherfuckers.
I also think this is a seriously enjoyable film, and I really dug it because you could tell everybody involved was having fun with this one, and no one acted like they didn't want to be there. Everyone believed, I hate horror films where the actors are divested, or they're just there either because it's a paycheck or they're there because they're contractually obligated. Or it's just, one movie to get through the time because, they've got a big span of time. Why not do another movie that's really, really easy? Because doing a movie like this is actually, from an actor standpoint, is actually quite easy. You either scream or you yell, you have, you deliver your lines.
There's a lot of running around.
And there's a lot of running around and pretty much just, throw blood all over the kids and make them act crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I dug this one just because of the dedication to it. And what everybody brought to it. Elijah Wood was fantastic. It just classic Elijah Wood. And that's an interesting thing. Because ever since, Elijah Wood's got that Lord of the Rings money. In fact, all of them have that Lord of the Rings money. And what he has done with that is he created Spectre Vision, which is his production company. And Spectre Vision has had some really interesting movies coming out, because they were behind Cooties, but they've also been behind the new Color Out of Space just released with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, I didn't realize that they were behind that.
I'm sorry, but I can't think of anything that's good that has Nicolas Cage in it.
Mandy?
Color Out of Space was good. Oh, come on, Raising Arizona?
Mandy?
Come on.
Mandy
was fantastic.
Listen,
but
guys,
so...
It's just a really awesome trip I'm going on, okay? No, sorry, fuck that guy. He's terrible.
That's high praise. But yes,
honey,
but
you want to know who shot
Elijah
JFK?
Hey, okay. The Rock was one thing, but National Treasure was fucking amazing.
Oh, stop it.
National Treasure was great. The first and the second one were both fantastic.
I'm not a Nick Cage fan. I can't do Nick Cage. He's just terrible. I was actually rooting for him to die in Wicker Man.
Oh my god.
Can we skip to the part where they sacrifice his dumbass?
Can we skip to the meme part of the movie?
Yeah.
Not the bees. But I wanted, because not a lot of people might know, but Elijah Wood's Spectre Vision has been doing quite well. And of some of the films, people might not be aware, but their focus on genre films predominantly on horror. And Cooties was the third film that they produced, but they also did the really amazing A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which was a fantastic vampire flick. Mandy, which was amazing, directed by Panos Cosmatos. Just absolutely stunning film. Fucking love it. Color Out of Space. And
did it have Barry Manilow?
And they've got
us.
And they've got a bunch of stuff coming up. I can't wait till they do the second installment, till they produce the second installment in their Lovecraftian kind of trilogy, because I know the Dunwich Horror will be coming out here in a couple of years. But they've been doing fantastic. But it's weird, obviously, because after Elijah got done with Lord of the Rings, he's got that Lord of the Rings money, he was able to branch out and do stuff that you wouldn't expect, like the Maniac remake, which I don't know about y'all, but blew my fucking mind. I
liked him in Wilfred, that whole series.
Oh, amazing.
His character
Wilfred was fantastic.
So his character never lost my interest. And that's difficult to do over a long series.
I think it was 5 seasons?
It was 4 seasons, unfortunately.
4 seasons, okay.
Yeah. Well, really 3.5.
And every episode was discovery.
Yeah,
and I love that the most about that is that they did so well at putting us on the journey with him.
Right. Well, so to get to your point, it seems as if, Elijah Wood is able to focus solely on passion projects. You know what I mean? So he did Lord of the Rings and he did Sin City that were big money and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But ever since then, he's done a lot of passion projects.
Well, I mean,
what was that other horror film
he's one of the few child actors that has, actually been successful and, stayed out of the news for doing craziness. So, I'm glad that he is able to do all these passion projects because they're turning out awesome.
Oh, for certain. Like I said, he's able to do things he actually cares about. Like I said, what was that other one? What was the other one he did, JL?
He did one with Stephen McHattie, Come to Daddy.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That was actually, I don't know if I would call that a horror film, more of a thriller, but either way, you could tell he actually, when he's in his role, you can actually tell he gives a shit about everything about this film. So he's never phoning it in.
Yeah.
I've never seen him phone in a single film, no matter what he's doing. I mean, ever since he landed on my radio. I was almost say not with Radio Flyer because most people remember him from Radio Flyer, but from The Good Son with him.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he did. That was
the two of them were amazing in that movie, but. And your classic Good vs. Evil, for those who haven't seen it. It came out many, many years ago. I don't have the year, I don't have the year it came out on me, but for those who haven't seen The Good Son with Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin,
so
classic Good vs.
Early 90s, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think
they
so.
Were just little babies back then.
They were baby-faced,
93, yes. 1993.
Oh, my God, Macaulay Culkin was, for that age, was terrifying in that film.
What people may remember... people our age will remember is that this was right after Home Alone 2. So he still has that Home Alone 2 look, and the movie you saw right before The Good Son was Home Alone 2, and it's like cute kid running around escaping Joe Pesci, and all the zany antics and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, here he is shooting bolts through cats, trying to drop people off of freaking bridges and kill his mother.
Mm-hmm.
Such a
straight
shift,
up,
yeah.
Straight up. So it starts off just very, very much a sociopath, or very much I would say at that point I think in 1993 we would have labeled him a definite psychopath.
Oh yeah,
in that respect. But yeah, a burgeoning serial killer right there, just bad fucking news. And then of course playing across from the angelic Elijah Wood.
Oh yes,
right.
Because Elijah Wood had just done Huck Finn for like Disney.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, him and Devin Sawa.
Oh, my 90s boys. Woo! They had that haircut.
But and it's wild. I love the fact that he's doing this, that Elijah Wood has branched out and is doing stuff that you wouldn't expect. He after Lord of the Rings, he could have gone in any direction. He could have gone behind the camera. He could have been directing.
Yeah.
Once you're on a film set for as many years as he was, you get a taste of all of it, because obviously, he's not on camera all the time. He's on set. He's either in his trailer or he's helping out or he's doing lines off camera. You learn things. You learn from the director's perspective, from the 80s perspective, from all this stuff. And he could have gone that direction. And he's gone into production, but he's still acting, and I love that. But he's getting, and you're right, he is getting to do passion projects, stuff that he thinks is funny, stuff that he enjoys. And it's such a... And as much as I respect him for it and I love him for it and the stuff he's producing is great, it is an indictment of how Hollywood works these days. That as an actor, to do the things that you truly love, to pursue the projects and get them made, to be a part of the things and really enjoy yourself as an actor in this industry, you gotta have that dollar.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it is also because he's been in the industry. I mean, it's 2020. He's been doing this since what, like 1990?
Since Back to the Future 2.
Yep.
Like, what year was that? I don't know.
92?
92, I think.
Isn't it? I think so.
Yeah, so almost 30 years. So, I mean, he's made a lot of connections. He's worked with a lot of people.
Oh, Back to the Future 2, 89.
89, so
I'm thinking
over 30 years.
Yep.
You know, Elijah Wood's only 1 year younger than you, JL.
Oh, God, he is. He's 39.
Yep.
How come you look so much older?
Speaking of, did you see that? Well, you know.
Yeah, as far as for all the things that he does, he's an actor. He's a voice actor. He's done great voice stuff. He was good in 9. I really enjoyed him in 9. He brought that character really to life. He's also a producer, but he's also a fucking DJ.
Well, when you have all the time in the world to do whatever the fuck you want, I mean, come on.
Right.
This is true.
You know, Jesus.
Yeah, I would.
If I had Elijah Wood time, I'd be a DJ too, just because.
I mean, anyone can do it. Wasn't like Paris Hilton a DJ too, or like?
No. Paris Hilton was a stripper.
Also.
That as well.
What Paris Hilton won't do for $1.
Dollar bills. Fuck you, pay me.
So freaking cool. Oh, and we totally spaced on he was Kevin in Sin City.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, that's another role.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's one of the roles that really, when I watched Sin City, wasn't too particularly thrilled with the film, but his character, the way he portrayed his character, was amazing.
Let's see you hop around now.
Right. Yeah, that's where you can see his dedication to the character and not necessarily inserting himself.
Yeah. So friggin' cool. I wonder what he's got. What is oh boy got coming up? Because I know we know Spectrovision is bringing out Arch Enemy. Because he was a producer on he's pretty much producing. He did come to Daddy. But he's been producing predominantly. And I really did enjoy it. If people haven't checked it out, I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore was a really kind of creepy thriller, really, really offbeat indie film that was on Netflix. Now, I thought it was really good. He really stepped out of his comfort zone in that one. So, but man, thanks to him and his ability to do this, we have gotten Spectrovision and some really fantastic films will be listed off that Spectrovision has brought out that I think not a lot of people might know, but should definitely check out. And so we have Elijah Wood to thank for that one, especially for a film like Cooties and all the fun stuff he's doing. So I know that Spectrovision coming up has their second installment in their Lovecraftian trilogy, which would be the Dunwich Horror.
Oh, that's gonna be cool.
There's no specific date on that one, but I know that I think that one's in pre-production as it is. The whole
pandemic,
COVID-19 situation has fucked everything up for everybody.
Thanks, 2020.
Well, like to pose this to the audience. What do you think Spectrovision's future is going to be? Do you think they're going to keep going down the horror road? Do you think they're going to branch out and do something else? Let us know in the comments below, or shoot us an email. weekendhorror@gmail.com. What do we have next, JL?
Everybody, it's Pat Sajak and Vanna White.
Yes, closing out this week, we have another favorite of mine, and I'm one of the few that actually really, really loved this movie, even though my mind was blown by it when I got to review this movie before it actually saw release, and this one blew my
so
fucking
much
mind.
so he made me watch it.
Oh boy!
Released September 19th, 2014. We have the comedy horror film Tusk.
Oh yeah.
So, directed by the one and the only, the man Kevin Smith, and written by Kevin Smith, based upon an episode of his podcast, Smodcast. I think it was like episode 37 or something like that. And starring Michael Parks, the late, great, legendary Michael Parks, Justin Long, Haley Joel Osment, Genesis Rodriguez, and you probably wouldn't know unless we told you, Johnny Depp was in this fucking movie. If you can believe that shit. And also starring Harley Quinn Smith, Kevin Smith's daughter, and Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter, in kind of kicking off their careers. But the film Tusk, based on an episode of their podcast, where a reclusive, strange, eccentric guy offers to basically tell stories about his amazing life. And Justin Long plays a podcaster who is looking for something interesting to put on his show. And so he arrives at the house and then is drugged, and the old man then proceeds to turn him into a walrus.
Gross.
Because that's what they do.
Because
that's what they
why
do.
not?
Because that's what happens. The whole thing, the whole fucking film, this whole movie was based off of an episode of Smodcast in which there was a hoax article put in a classified section, and I can't remember what newspaper it was in. And it was the hoax advertisement was this guy was looking for a roommate to come and live there, and it would be all bills paid and all rent paid. The only difference was the only caveat was that the person who lived with him would have to spend 1 hour a day dressed as a walrus and act like a walrus for that 1 hour.
That's so weird.
And so they were talking about that. They were, obviously Kevin and Scott Mosier were stoned as fuck, and they were on the podcast.
No.
And they were talking
Right.
about this, and they started developing the idea for a movie, and they began the hashtag contest, either walrus yes or walrus no. And depending upon how much responses they got via Twitter, it was either, walrus yes, and walrus yes obviously won out because the internet, and that's what the internet does. And so Tusk was made, where Justin Long gets turned into a fucking walrus.
Yes, he does.
Because, yeah.
Yes, he does.
Oh, jeez. I saw the trailer for this, and had it not been the fact that it came from Kevin Smith, I wouldn't have farted in this fucking film's general direction.
It cannot be denied that Michael Parks was legendary in this movie. He was fantastic.
Okay, so
especially after seeing him in Red State.
So the movie was put together, was very well put together. And you could tell that even though this started out as a joke, that Kevin Smith didn't treat it like a joke. He treated it like a real film that he wanted to make. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, again, so that's where the cast comes in. That's where I don't know what I think about the story. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm just surprised that Jay didn't show up somewhere in this film.
Well, I think, I know that this kicked off Kevin Smith's True North trilogy, because he followed this up with Yoga Hosers, and after that it's supposed to be Moose Jaws, which will be his True North trilogy. It's kind of like homage to Canada, and but it was interesting. Canada. Whereas Yoga Hosers fell on its face, was just a critical and a financial failure. Because that film was really more of a vehicle for Harley Quinn and for Lily Rose, because they were them playing the leads in that. But Tusk was interesting, and I think it was such a course correction for Kevin Smith, because he hadn't done anything for a while. He was still, and you could tell he was still somewhat bitter about what happened with Cop Out. And I can see.
Didn't he just come off of that heart attack? Like he had that the Widowmaker heart attack.
This was before that.
Yeah, Tusk was before.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was before or after.
He had that occurred, I believe, in between Yoga Hosers and Tusk, and because in Yoga Hosers, you could tell he'd already lost a considerable amount of weight when he was playing the Nazi bratwurst.
Oh, that's right.
I just said that, and already you're not going to go watch that movie.
I mean, I love Kevin Smith. I am a huge fucking fan, but man, Yoga Hosers, man. You could tell it was just him trying to make something for his daughter.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It worked for Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
but he could have done better, here. Is my point.
Oh, he could have.
Sure.
It obviously worked here because Harley Quinn Smith showed up in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it's
what
obviously
kind of
working
asshole
there.
father is he, though, to name his daughter Harley Quinn after the shittiest Batman character ever written?
Oh, don't. Okay, that needs to be a part of your unpopular opinion series because there motherfuckers out there love them some Harley Quinn.
Just because they love them some sexual fantasy doesn't mean it's a good character. It's not even a real character.
She was created for the animated series. It's true.
She was created for the animated series, and her whole backstory was retconned. They just stole from a completely different character's backstory and gave it to Harley Quinn. That's so terrible. She was meant to be a one and done. I'm sorry. Got me on a rant.
Oh, if Craig ever listens to this, he's going to jump all over you.
Oh, I hope he does.
But
and let him try.
I was the thing about this when I reviewed this movie, I was wildly blown away by the costume design because everything in the film was practical.
Yep.
Because Kevin Smith, loves practical effects as much as we love practical effects. He doesn't rely on CGI, and despite the fact there was one pretty harrowing scene in there where Justin Long is in the suit, is in this, I shit you not, for anybody who's not seen this goddamn movie, a full fucking size walrus suit that looks like it's stitched together out of human skin.
Yeah.
And he's, the character, he cuts off his legs, and he cuts off his legs and then sews them all together to make, like, the tail, and to make the tail fins, and then takes his shin bones, and basically sands them down into tusks and then inserts them into his mouth. And so he turns them into a fucking walrus.
Yep.
I shit you not. And then there's a pretty harrowing scene where he's in the water. Where he actually, puts him on a chain. He actually drags him into the water and makes him swim like that. I'm trying to imagine being in this horrific scenario in this suit, like, oh my God, and his tongue is cut out. He can't talk. He can only make walrus noises. It's really, really twisted. And I don't want to spoil how it ends. It gets wild, but the suit construction is fucking insane. And trying to imagine as an actor being in that situation, because you could tell it was not comfortable, because he's literally, kind of in the walrus position.
Right.
For like the in the pretty much the third act of the film.
Yep.
So I don't know. Would you want to do that like first half of shoot or the last half of shoot?
I would want to get that out of the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I would too.
Because that's
knock out the walrus shit, and then do all the stuff where I get to just be me and be normal and all the character acting, but knock out all the walrus shit because that shit looked obnoxious. It looked painful.
Yeah.
Because of the position that he was consistently in, basically, on his, not able to use his legs, up on his hands, and trying to move around in that enormous freaking suit. Not to mention with the big old tusk right there, you can barely talk, and he's slobbering all over the place, and it's totally disgusting.
Yeah, I would definitely want to do that at the first half of the shoot because not only would it be really uncomfortable, but also, you're gonna have to take a lot more breaks and a lot more, weird angles than you might anticipate. So, it's probably going to take you a lot longer to actually shoot that part versus, hey, I'm just a guy now.
Yeah, it's rough on the knees. Yeah. Get it in, get out, get on with my day.
Yeah, it was wild. And you are correct. I got to kind of harken back to what Johnny was saying about that. Getting Michael Parks for this film. And Michael Parks is a legendary actor. I know most horror fans will remember him from he was the sheriff in Rodriguez from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yep.
He was the sheriff who was up there at the front, and he was also, of course, he was the sheriff in Kill Bill, which I think actually were the same character.
Yep. And Grindhouse.
And in Grindhouse, that's right.
Yeah, it is the same character. It's the same characters of all of them.
And then, of course, Kevin Smith is a huge fan of Michael Parks' work, and he cast him in Red State, which Michael Parks took for the opportunity to be like a legit, straight, scary villain in that respect, and just with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. It was such a departure for him because he can play intimidating guys. He had that thick, gravelly voice.
Yep. And
was capable of just such energy and presence. But he felt Michael Parks took that, and that's how he kind of got into the Kevin Smith camp. But the fact that Michael Parks was willing to himself don a walrus suit for the big climactic finale of Tusk, it just goes to show his love of the project and what they were doing. And Michael Parks believed in it. Johnny Depp certainly believed in it in the inspector. Oh God, what the fuck was his name?
Guy Lapointe.
Guy Lapointe. Yeah, anyway, it was freaking weird.
Yeah,
but such a that brings it up because Kevin Smith swung. Obviously, Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. Comedy was his forte. That was what he did. Cop Out, comedy. Jersey Girl, almost comedy. And then all of a sudden, just hard left. Let's do fucking horror. And Red State was phenomenal. Yeah. And I know that critics were divided. I don't care what the critics say about Red State. Red State was fucking amazing. Michael Parks, John Goodman, oh God, I totally lost her. The actress, she played the mom in that Mark was in The Fighter. Oh, either way, I can't recall. But nonetheless, fantastic acting across the board. John Goodman was phenomenal. Michael Parks was just completely insane and outrageous, and I love that fucking movie. And then, of course, it comes out with Tusk. Yoga Hosers was more goofy. It was more like Mallrats, the fucking Bratzies and shit. We'll see what Moose Jaws brings, which is all supposed to be a straight horror film.
But how do we feel about Kevin Smith doing horror? Just as like
I love Kevin doing. I loved Kevin doing horror, like legit horror. I love him doing. I think he's got a great mind for it.
I mean, I do too, but I mean, it's so weird for me because I was such a big fan of all of the comedies, dick and fart jokes all the way. And then you see him doing this horror stuff, and I mean, Tusk was a great movie. Red State was awesome. So it's going to be interesting if he decides to go back down the rabbit hole to horror again, or if he's going to continue doing more comedy, or what he decides to do.
Well, why can't he do both?
I mean, he absolutely can. I would love to see him do a horror movie full of dick and fart jokes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my grandmother said, Holden, that's where the money is, dick and fart jokes. Yeah, she was a churchgoer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I love his horror films. There's something to be said. I know that it's stated a lot of times that behind comedy there is darkness, and kind of like a way of looking at the world where there's a kind of cynicism behind comedy, and then the ability to see to laugh at that.
Well, and also though, I'm curious if because he did Tusk before his heart attack, I'm wondering if that changes his perspective on things as well, though.
Oh, absolutely. A near-death experience like that, yeah, whether you're a person of faith or not, hey, motherfucker, you almost died. It's going to make you think about shit.
Right, and I'm curious as to what effect it's going to have on, his writing.
Well, we can see he's definitely put the nose to the grindstone. Obviously, definitely about his health. He's looking fantastic these days. He's in great shape. Which is interesting because he's spoken at length about Jen. His wife Jen is a total chubby chaser, and now he is in no way chubby at all. He's in fantastic shape. So I find that to be I'm curious about the dynamic of their relationship. But
should make some put him in a fat suit.
That's only as a Kevin. That's only as a Kevin Smith.
I need you to gain 100 pounds.
But you can tell. With the work that he's done, because he's directed several episodes in the Arrowverse. He's directed Supergirl
and Flash,
and he's directed the Flash. And I think that event did have a profound effect because he has several podcasts. He's got Fat Man on Batman. He's got Jay and Silent Bob. He's got an unboxing series with Jason Mewes. He's got the Smodcast that he still does. I think that comes out like once a month. So he's got a shit ton of irons in the fire. Not to mention he's got more movies coming out. He's still planning on making Moose Jaws. He's going to do Twilight of the Mallrats. So he's got lots of things going on. I think it ramped up his need to be creative. Now, I don't know if that's because he came so close to death and he's like, I've got to get these stories told. Others I might not get to tell them. But I can imagine it does change your perspective coming that close.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it has to. Yeah, for certain. Because, I mean, the type of heart attack that he had, I mean, it is called the Widowmaker. He is extremely lucky to be alive.
Weed saved his life.
Yeah, I think he credited weed. He credited weed as saving his life.
Yeah, nothing to do with those doctors. It's definitely the weed.
Well, no, because he had the heart attack when he was at work, and he was at the studio.
But because he was so high, he wasn't
stage.
panicking.
Well, he was backstage.
Yeah.
And he wasn't feeling well, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, I'm just not feeling well." And he laid down. He was kind of like, I don't know." And he was like, "Well, let's go ahead and take you. You're not looking too good. Let's go take you." He was like, "No, it'll pass." He's like, "Let's take you to the hospital." He's like, "Okay, let's go to the hospital." And he'd smoked a shit ton of weed beforehand. He was smoking weed during his heart attack, and then he took him to the hospital, and he was like, "Doctor, I got to be honest. Tell me, was it the weed?" And he was like, in the dark, like, "Hell no, the weed saved your life because you didn't panic. You remained calm. You were chill." You didn't throw your blood pressure up all over the place, so yeah, holy shit. So that's pretty much the end. And then
there you go, kids. JL from the Weekend Horror Podcast says, "Smoke weed, don't get a heart attack."
I'm relaying the story that Kevin Smith said, "Smoke weed, don't have a heart attack," or "Don't let the heart attack kill you." But hysterical. But I'm very curious. Obviously Kevin Smith. He's got this background in comedy. His forte is comedy. He has branched out into horror. I like what he's done as far as horror. I think his horror has hit a little bit harder. Clerks and Chasing Amy will always be, very, very precious to me as a Kevin Smith fan. I love both those movies. Just spoke to me. Like Slacker spoke to Kevin Smith. But I love his horror. So that brings me up. I'm very curious. I want to ask the audience. He has the third installment of his True North trilogy, Moose Jaws, supposedly coming out. Originally, we'd heard that Silent Bob was going to die in Moose Jaws. Silent Bob was going to be eaten by the moose. But we've heard now, as far as June of this year, he's pulled Jay and Silent Bob out of that movie. So they will not be showing up in that. But Moose Jaws, are we looking forward to it? Do we want it to happen? Do we want him to complete the trilogy? Or should Kevin Smith, keep his now svelte ass back in comedy where he started? Do you dig the horror, or not? Are you looking forward to Moose Jaws coming out? Let us know in the comments down below, or hit us up. We love getting your emails. Hit us up at weekendhorror@gmail.com. We want to know what you think.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah, tell them.
Yeah. Kevin Smith and everything, but Jason Mewes, he had his own movie that he did fairly recently, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Jason Mewes had his directorial debut, because he's acted in several little things where he's shown up here and there, and had some roles, but he had his first major, I think, his big leading role and his directorial debut, called Madness in the Method.
That's what it was.
God, I hope I quoted that right, because I rented the movie on Amazon Prime, and
it was actually really, really good.
It was really good. It was really good, and it was what really blew my mind is you never thought you would see it. You never think you would see it, because you think Jay and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, Kevin and Jay, they're just they're together. They're like one of the biggest bromances ever. And there was a scene in that film that blew my fucking mind, because it was Kevin and Jay. And Kevin Smith is playing himself, and Jason Mewes is playing himself. The artistic license versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. And Jay and Kevin get into a fight over Jay seemingly having the audacity of branching off, and his failures to branch off. Kevin Smith, kind of like, he ribs him out like that, but Kevin has always felt that there was this underlying kind of animosity towards Jay, like kind of blaming, because Jay can't really be anything more than Jay. Snoochie Boochies, that's what he is. And him trying to break off as an actor, there's a kind of like resentment there that you've solidified me as Jay, and now I can't do anything other than just be Jason Mewes. And the two of them get into a fight. They have an argument, which I imagine it was too real. It was almost like these were things that they had maybe hinted at or maybe said in the past, but it kind of made it to the script, and it was in there because the two of them go off on each other, huh?
Just pent up bullshit.
Yeah, and it was basically how Jason's view of himself because the world views him through the lens of Jay, and how hard it is for him to kind of break out of that mold as the druggy, sidekick.
Well,
that
when you
Kevin
do a
Smith
lot
has
of
molded
drugs,
him into.
Oh yeah, no,
you
he
do a lot of drugs in your real life.
he did. He's been sober for quite
Yeah.
some time now, but yeah, no, he did all the drugs.
But I strongly recommend it. Jason Mewes.
Yeah, he ends up.
And a whole bunch of people stop by in that. Kevin Smith is in it. Danny Trejo is in it.
Fucking Danny Trejo.
Gina, huh?
I said fucking Danny Trejo.
Oh yeah, Danny Trejo, and it's in a role you would not expect. You'll fucking love it. Gina Carano is in it. A whole bunch of fucking people stop by. Stan Lee makes his obligatory appearance. And God rest Stan Lee. Love him and miss him. But definitely check that out. I think it's called Madness in the Method. Which is a really cool directorial debut for Jason Mewes. So definitely want to throw that out there. But yes, as always, we want to hear what you guys think. So definitely hit us up, weekinhorror@gmail.com. And unfortunately this week, we have no birthdays and no in memoriams. This is a rare week where nothing fell.
Crazy.
I will say this. There are actually 2 birthdays that are very near and dear to me. Happening at the end of this month. Both my wife and my youngest daughter have birthdays, so they're your placeholder for the birthdays. I know they're not horror icons.
Oh, well, we can always throw out JL and I's anniversary is coming up as well.
That is pretty scary.
Is true.
That is pretty scary. I mean,
Angela and I have been to. It'll be 17 years this coming up here pretty soon.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
17 years.
17 years.
I know.
Our relationship can almost vote.
JL,
and
I have to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
What's it like to be froze out all the time?
I'm not going to grace that with a response. Your youngest, that's Jocelyn, right?
Jocelyn, yep. She's turning 6.
She's adorable.
She's such an absolute sweetheart.
Yeah.
I hope Angela gets to meet her one day. She'll get an absolute kick out of her. All of his kids are a blast. Evan is a blast. Jocelyn's a blast.
Did you see you saw the tasting video? Yes.
Yes, I did watch it. And,
did you hear her screaming in the background?
I did. And their reaction to the Mountain Dew chips was kind of interesting.
Yeah, they're it's because they start out like just like a lime chip. I was like, oh, okay, but then it gets sweet. Like, that's not good. No, doesn't. No. Mm-mm.
I'm gonna have to get my hands on that so I can.
Well, we saved you some, so you need to
video.
swing by and pick up some of these goodies so you can do your own little taste testing.
Yeah, I got to do a taste test video. So that's 3 videos I got to get done on my YouTube.
Get it together, God.
Yeah, but the taste testing one is easy. So you just plug and play and record that shit. And then
pretty much,
yeah,
and just record your reactions.
Yeah, that one's simple.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, well, that closes out another episode of Week in Horror. I want to thank all of our listeners so much for stopping by and giving us a listen. We love you guys. We could not do this fucking show without you. As always, you can check in with us at weekinhorror.net. There, if you throw your email address on our mailing list, we enter you in permanently for a mystery shirt giveaway. We just did our one for September, and we got it coming up at the top of every single month. Get yourself a mystery horror shirt by jumping in there and throwing your name or throwing your email address on our mailing list. There on the website, we also have links to all of our episodes wherever you love podcasts, if you listen to podcasts on your whatever your favorite station is, and we have links to our online store, where you can check out the t-shirts and the mugs that we have at teespring.com/weekinhorror. Very, very cool stuff. All the links at weekinhorror.net. As always, we want your feedback, your comments, your questions, your emails, your hate mail. We love it. Alex is extremely lonely. He loves reading that stuff when he's sitting in his house all by himself. Hate mail. And you can always hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you think. Or always, you can comment or you can drop a line in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think, your criticisms, your feedback, whatever you've got. If you really, really fucking love what we do here, we love it. We hope you love it. If you really love it, you can support the show at patreon.com/weekinhorror. We have tiers as low as $1 for our horror fanatics, going all the way up to our undying tier, which will give you an opportunity, if you jump on that tier, there's only 5 of them, to be on the show. Because we want you, if you're hardcore enough to go for that tier, to be on the show with us and actually give us that horror. If you think you got what it takes to hang with us, we want you on here. So check those out. Patreon.com/weekinhorror. You also get early access to our Bloodbath debates and our After Dark sessions with our special guests. As always, follow us on Facebook and Twitter where you can get your daily splatter, a little bit of horror knowledge every single day straight to your feed. Facebook.com/weekinhorror or at Twitter @weekinhorror. Check out our YouTube channel. We are on YouTube. All of the episodes are up there. And search Week in Horror. We are right there on top. And hopefully, if you love it, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and it'll let you know when new stuff drops. As always, I am JL.
I'm Angela.
I'm Johnny O.
We will see you all next week for the big-ass season finale. And as always, stay scared.